Welcome. My name is LJ Stambuk. I'm the President and CEO of the World Affairs Council of Charlotte. Today we have an exceptional program, and I'm so honored to have with us again for the third time Rick Steves, Guidebook author and travel TV host, who will speak to us on the future of world travel. As the community's premier global education, nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, the World Affairs Council has always sought to bring the world closer to you and to build a community of internationally informed and engaged citizens. Dialogue, knowledge, active participation, and understanding of global issues are vitally important for our democracy to flourish at all levels. And who better than Rick Steves to talk to us about travel and the world. A couple of housekeeping items. Your microphone will be on mute and your camera will be turned off for the duration of this presentation. Please note that we would like you to submit a question to Rick, but use the question and answer box in the Zoom toolbar. It is circled in red. Do not use the chat box. Please use the question and answer box in the Zoom toolbar for your questions. If you do have comments for the World Affairs Council staff, please do put them in the chat box and we will respond to you. This presentation will be recorded and we will share with you through our mailing list. So please make sure you're signed up to receive the World Affairs Council emails so we can send the recording to you. Thank you. We will have also, surprise, exclusive. We will have an exclusive first look at the new interactive segment called Where's Rick? It's going to be after the question and answer session. So be sure to stay until the end of the program. It is just produced by Rick. It is great. You will enjoy it. I hope you can stay till the end of the program and participate. If you are registered to participate in this, well, it's sold out, World Affairs Council networking reception after today's program, please stay on the Zoom call once the presentation has ended. Our staff will enable your microphone and camera access, and we ask you that you please turn on your camera to participate. A couple of upcoming programs: April 20th, 2021, Young Professionals of the World Affairs Council and UNC Charlotte's annual International Career Panel. Very important. Please sign up and join the panelists. We talk about careers, international careers, and it's always great for the students who participate to have you participate as well in this program. On May 6th, 2021, we have the Distinguished Speaker Series panel with Rodney Murray, who is a Principal Technology Advisory at DHG, and Tom Tullerton, who is a Managing Director, Technology Advisory at DHG, and they're going to speak about global cyber attacks, risky business, how to protect your company and yourself against cyber attacks. You know, as the Charlotte's Global Education nonprofit, we're so proud that we can continue serving our community in these very, very challenging times. We're truly thankful for your participation, for your support, and we would like to ask you to consider making a contribution in order to help us sustain our place in Charlotte's civic landscape. If you can, please support us. If you're not a member, please become a member. It is very much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. We are on social media. Please join us and follow us, especially on YouTube. We have videos and recording of all our programs. So we're inviting you to join the World Affairs Council of Charlotte on social media. And finally, as I mentioned, 2011, 2013, Rick was here with us. And it was great. These were one of the most attended events that the World Affairs Council of Charlotte has hosted. And we wish that we could have Rick with us today in Charlotte, but we're equally delighted that we're sharing his time and his views and his talents with you via Zoom today in this new digital world that we are living in during the pandemic. I will not read a long bio of Rick Steves, because I'm sure that you all know so much about him. But one thing I want to share with you, which I think is important, and we have a longer bio in our chat box and also on our website, that Rick is the founder and owner of Rick Steves Europe, a travel business with a touring program that brings more than 30,000 people to Europe annually. And this, listen to this, this is important. Each year, the company contributes to a portfolio of climate-smart nonprofits, especially paying a self-imposed carbon tax. Thank you, Rick. This is wonderful. I did not know this, and I thought this was be important to share with the participants today. Again, you have a longer bio in the chat box and on the website if you're interested in reading. And we'll hear from Rick.
By traveling thoughtfully, we connect. Even for those of us who can only travel as a state of mind, travel can result in a deeper connection. Travel connects us face to face with reality. It's not virtual. It's not through a viewfinder. Travel is candid, honest, being in the moment. Okay. Thank you. In a world hungry for authenticity, we yearn for connection.
And now she's quite big. She's like you, about like that, yeah.
Travelers connect with different cultures, different people. On the road, strangers are just friends we've yet to meet. Travel frees us from routine. It creates room for serendipity.
Okay, so now I'm ready to be a shepherd.
Serendipity leads to connections. Travel forces us to bend and to flex. It makes us more tolerant and inspires us to celebrate diversity. The lessons I've gained from exploring Europe, the land of my heritage, are universal. For me, these lessons are affirmed and then stretched when traveling further afield. As a child ventures beyond his backyard, I ventured beyond Europe. Year after year, I pushed my boundaries. The world opened wide with a montage of wonders and lessons learned. Traveling beyond my comfort zone, culture shock became constructive. The growing pains of a broadening perspective, my ethnocentrism challenged. The celebration of difference and oneness at the same time. The recognition that love is love in their home just as in mine.
I think this is a beautiful, beautiful welcome here.
Through travel, we see a world filled with joy, with compassion, and with good people. We learn the more we reach out, the more we receive. We learn that we all share the same world.
Nice.
And we all share the same window of time. Travelers seek bridges rather than walls. Every wall has two sides and two narratives. For one to be truly understood, both must be heard. Traveling, we realize that challenges of our future will be blind to borders and best overcome not by conflict and walls, but by community and bridges. There's so much fear these days. The flip side of fear? It's understanding. And we gain understanding when we travel.
What is this? The celebration of Obama's...
Travel is more than a holiday. It gives us new experiences, acts as our greatest teacher, makes our lives more meaningful, and connects us with a global family. We can't all travel physically, but anyone can live with a traveler's mindset. It's a choice. Travel makes us more comfortable with the world, our hearts bigger, and our lives richer. And it makes us happier. And that is why we travel.
Wonderfully put, Rick. Welcome to Charlotte once again, Rick Steves.
Thank you very much, LJ. So nice to be with you.
Pleasure. So we will start our conversation with you. I would like to introduce Laura Mayer-Wellman. board member of the World Affairs Council of Charlotte. Laura.
Thank you, LJ. And I cannot imagine that there is not one person watching today that is not grieving over the video and the photos of you, Rick, in all of your wonderful travel venues, and the message that I think that that mindset is one that is prevalent with anyone who has signed up today. And so thank you for being here. And it's a great opportunity to cover the waterfront in a few ways about travel. And just to begin in your own words, I think it would be great for the group to hear what prompted you. I know you've had a background in travel, but what prompted you to take this to the next level and turn it into business?
Yeah, well, first of all, the clip we just saw was the last 3 or 4 minutes of a 30-minute program I wrote and produced with my staff last summer when we were all locked down. And I had booked and had the crew and the permissions and the scripts all ready to go to Poland and to go to Iceland and to make 4 new shows. But of course, so many industries were impacted by this COVID pandemic, and people in travel, producing TV shows about travel, for example, nope, nothing going to happen. So I really thought, I got thinking the importance of travel. While I was locked up here, I couldn't travel. And this last year has been the first year since I was 17 years old, I think, that I wasn't able to go to Europe. And I just thought a lot about why I value travel. And I wrote this love note to travel. It's like a poem to travel in 30 minutes. And it was really a good exercise for me. By the way, if anybody wants to see that show in its entirety, it runs on public television, or they can always go to my website and just click and see it for free anytime. But I think it's a good hour, or it's a good half-hour look at travel. And it shares my passion for teaching travel also. You know, I probably would have never gone to Europe had I not had the good fortune of my parents deciding to go to Europe when I was 14 years old. They wanted to see the relatives in Norway, and my dad was a piano tuner here in Seattle, and he started importing pianos from Germany. So we went over there to see the piano factories, and I thought it was a goofy notion at first, but then I realized this is amazing. The world is our playground, you know, and you can get out there and get to know the neighbors. So I was traveling a few times just for kicks. I was a piano teacher, and kids wouldn't practice in the summer. So I'll see in September, I'm going to Europe. And I had almost no money to do that. And I was learning all the budget tricks, and I was learning from my experience. And I realized other people were making the same mistakes I had made. So why don't I just package the lessons I learned and give a talk or write a book, and people could learn from my experience rather than their own and have a better trip. And I'd have a good excuse to go back to Europe every year and update my material. So that kind of started my business. I gave up teaching piano and I became a travel teacher. Wrote a guidebook in 1980 for my first time. And back then my class was called European Travel Cheap. Didn't apologize. It's just budget tricks. Then after about a decade, I realized, no, I can slide up this Maslow's hierarchy of travel needs. People can figure out how to catch the train and pack light. I want to talk about appreciating history, art, and culture. And I wrote a book about that and so on. And then after 9/11, I realized the pinnacle of this Maslow's hierarchy of travel needs is traveling a way where you gain an empathy for the other 96% of humanity. We Americans are 4% of the world. We're a beautiful 4% of the world, but you know, no more beautiful than the other 96%. And we're all just beautiful children of God. And I think the world's full of love and joy and people struggling and taking care of each other and dealing with the same challenges we are. And it just makes perfect sense to me to get out there and get to know the family. So I've been thinking a lot about the value of travel lately. And my mission now, you know, I like to joke, is to equip and inspire Americans to venture beyond Orlando. You know, if you've got the opportunity to travel, get out there and, you know, get out of your comfort zone. A lot of people are worried about, well, culture shock. Culture shock's a good thing. It's the growing pains of a broadening perspective. And, you know, there's everybody wants to be safe. And some people think you can be safe by building walls. I think that's folly. I think you're going to be safe by building bridges and getting to know people. The challenges that are going to confront us in the future are not the conventional challenges that we're used to. They're going to be challenges that need science, that need good governance, that need nations working together. Challenges that'll be impervious to conventional weaponry and blind to walls. And I just think we're going to learn from this COVID time. that we got to get out there and get to know the world and understand each other, give everybody a little wiggle room, not to be naive about things, but I think you accomplish a lot when you get to know your enemies. I mean, I say enemies in kind of a silly way, but we're told that some people are our enemies. Well, let's go over and get to know them, see what's bothering them. And I've always found that individuals, they just want to get together and share the world.
So the segue is perfect to how do you keep your inspiration going when we have 14, 15 odd months of pretty much laying, and also
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how the people around the world who support you, your tour guides, how have you maintained a level of freshness there? Because that's hard.
Yeah, well, I've got 100 people on my payroll and 0 revenue now for a year and a half. That's tough. And I'm thankful that I'm privately held, and I've had 30 good years, and I've got enough money to survive a couple of bad years, and I feel sad that a lot of companies that are publicly held, they disperse their money, I think, as they go, and they're not able to keep it together. So I'm really worried that a fallout of this whole COVID time will be a lot of great businesses will not still be standing when it's over. What makes Europe, my beat is Europe, so I focus on Europe, but I love to travel anywhere in the world, but my anecdotes are set in Europe. But what makes Europe so rewarding to travel is not a Subway sandwich store in every corner and a Starbucks within an easy walk, or the ability to get an Amazon box on your door in 24 hours. That's all fine stuff. But what really carbonates the world for me in such a beautiful way are all the little one-offs, the mom and pops, and the creative adventures, and the entrepreneurial creations. I just love that. That's why I live where I live in my town. It's just a whole bunch of one-offs. I just love that. And that's a concern of mine. Our mantra has been travel can derail our travel plans, but it can't stop our travel dreams. So what I've been doing now to keep my company fresh and engaged with our public is find all sorts of ways that we can help people implement their traveler's mindset right here at home, to reach out through, we have a lot of programs, TV shows, radio shows. Every Monday night we have a big party, a virtual get together where thousands of people join me, and I go somewhere and eat and drink in that country and share some videos and have a lot of laughs. We're just kind of keeping people, keeping their dreams alive. But I've been really patient. A lot of people are chomping at the bit to travel. I love to travel as much as anybody. I mean, the other day I was walking home and I saw a snail on my neighbor's fence, and all I could think was escargot. I want to go to France and cook that thing up, but we can't travel right now. And patience is not an American forte. It's certainly not a Rick Steves forte. But for the last year, patience has been my middle name. And I'm using all the leadership power I've got to remind my staff and my community and my public that we've just got to take a break. This is God's way of telling us to slow down. For me, it's therapy for a workaholic. We've got to get a grip on this pandemic. And I don't want to play whack-a-mole by kind of thinking, oh, we can go there and then we can go there and then things, spike up. So we're not going to be the first tour company out of the gate. We're going to wait until it's stable. So right now I'm really set into that notion. And then in this interim period, Laura, what I'm doing is I'm making an art out of employing what I call the traveler's mindset right here at home. It's a beautiful thing. I don't regret the focus I've had on travel through my life. I love it. I spend 100 days a year in Europe. I come home feeling more energetic and younger after working 100 days in a row than I felt when I left on that trip. It's my energy source. It's my fountain of youth. But right now, I'm employing that traveler's mindset right here at home. You think about what is a good traveler. A good traveler, in my estimate, is somebody who's curious, who is eager to get out of their comfort zone, try new things, make mistakes, figure out what they like, what they don't like. Somebody who's going to broaden their perspective. And you can employ that right here at home. You could do it in Charlotte, you could do it in Seattle. And that's what I've been doing. I've been dusting off old passions. I'm playing the piano more than ever. I'm thankful I've got a girlfriend who's a great cook. I've learned to cook this year. I never, ever cooked. I can't remember wearing an apron. I hardly knew how to turn on my stove. I mean, I eat nutritiously, but I eat like an animal, you know. And now I'm enjoying cooking. I just spent a lot of money on a set of nice knives. My children are saying, "Who is this man?" But it's something that's a different dimension of life that I never paid attention to, and now I'm enjoying it with the freshness of a youngster. I never appreciated dogs. You know, I just thought people who are walking dogs, you know, I just thought I didn't understand it. Now I understand dogs. I love our dogs. We take a walk down to the beach with the dogs every evening, and I'm tuned into the environment like never before. I mean, for me, every sunset is a devotional. I'm a very privileged person to live where I live and to have this beautiful environment and to have a comfortable place to live and work where I've got, you know, space and quiet, and I can do my work from home. So I realize I'm a privileged person. And I also realize that, especially during this COVID time, my dashed travel dreams don't matter. My lack of income in my business it's not really the challenge. The challenge is recognizing the fragility of our environment, recognizing the importance of keeping our community together and taking care of neighbors who are struggling. I've got 100 people on my payroll. We don't have much work to do. So I'm using a lot of that paid time by encouraging my staff to take their company time and do volunteer projects for organizations that are taking care of older people and poor people in our community. And we're spending over 400 hours every week with my staff with Meals on Wheels and food banks and cleaning up the parks or checking in on older people who are lonely. And for me, it's just what we all need to do right now is take care of each other. And we need to recognize that together we can get over this pandemic. Then we can throttle up and do our travels again. Then we can kick our economy into high gear. But it's first things first. And I think that's just good, caring citizenship.
You know, it's a great way to describe also getting a mindset to go back into travel with perhaps different lenses. Americans are not known for being the most ecologically focused when they travel or, you know, when they live. And, you know, what we see now in terms of our own environment prompts probably maybe that change in psyche will happen.
Yeah.
And I do know you are a careful traveler in terms of not packing a lot of stuff, and you are you tend to be ready for the moment without overburdening yourself with stuff as you travel. So for our folks here, could you just give a view of what you think are the necessities as people? I don't mean toothbrush, but I mean what are the extra special things that you bring with you that make your trip important? And I'll do the little advertisement. I did bring my Normandy 4th edition, which I used faithfully a year and a half ago, to read in advance. Not so much the site, but to read in advance. So yeah. I'd like to know your tips, what you find for you personally and for those traveling with you. How do we get prepared in a new way? Well,
I think, you know, I've been a tour guide for 30 years and I've been teaching travel ever since I was a kid. And I really believe that if you equip yourself with good information and expect yourself to travel smart, you will. I've been to places where I didn't know anything about it. I was just in Guatemala. I was just in Ethiopia. I was just in Cuba. And I did my work ahead of time, so I understood the context of what I was going to be visiting. I worked very carefully to have good information and also to hire guides while I was traveling, not to take a tour necessarily. You know, that's the primary source of our income in our company, but to hire local independent guides. For me, that's the biggest splurge, the best splurge you can have. And the great thing about a guide is the more you need them, the cheaper they are. You know, you don't really need a guide in London and they cost $500 a day. But if you're going to Cuba, or if you're going to Ethiopia, or if you're going to Turkey, you're going to Morocco, going to Poland, countries like that, you can get a guide for $200, $100 a day. And that guide is critical for you to have a friend, a communicator, a negotiator, a guard, a jokester, a historian, a driver, you name it. You've got all that in your guide. So, excuse me, I think that's important. If you just want to get into practicalities, I pack light. I pack a carry on the airplane size bag. I was just talking to somebody the other day about having a long layover at an airport so you can go into town for 5 hours and back. And I thought, I've never done that. And I realized the reason I've never done that is because I always carry my bag with me and I can't I don't want to take my bag into town and back. So, but I always just live out of a 9 by 22 by 14 inch carry on the airplane size bag. And we took 30,000 Americans on our tours, on 1,500 different tours in 2019. It was our best year ever. And none of them were allowed to take any more than that carry on the airplane size bag. It's a good way to shape the clientele. You need to be casual. You need to be nimble. You need to be able to turn on a dime. And that's what packing light helps you do. The mindset is you can get what you need over there. So don't take everything just in case you need it. Look forward to buying a few things as you go. And just, you want to be nimble, I would say. So packing light is not a sacrifice. It's not a hardship. It's an enlightenment. If I had Sherpas, I would set them free. I pack really light.
And as it relates to a whole group of people who are coming out of college, and I know we have some students listening in today and who've not had the benefit perhaps of being out there, launched, etc. So fresh, without the benefit of some of the travel that those of us of many years are able to do. So what would you say in terms of first-time travelers and their approach? What would you offer as advice?
I would say plan a smart itinerary. You really need to, you don't want, if it's Tuesday, it must be Belgium, crazy, going too fast, but you also don't want going too slow. So you got to find what is the right tempo for you. I like to minimize one-night stops. A series of one-night stops, you're never rooted. 2 nights is great. You get settled the first night, you feel like an old timer the second night. You know where you want to go and so on. So that's important. You get a diminishing curve of returns the longer you stay in one spot. Don't get me wrong, day number 7 in Paris is great, but it's not as great as day number 2 or 3. So the longer you stay, the less you get out of that one stop. Now you could have a wonderful place like Paris and day number 5 is still really good. Or you could have a less thrilling place like Avignon or Nice or something. And then day 3 would also be less than day 2. And then you got to decide, how do you stay up high on that curve as much as possible? So you got to calibrate it smartly. You got to put things in a smart order, considering climate, heat and crowds, considering festivals that you want to hit or that you want to miss, and most importantly, considering culture shock. I worry about somebody flying into Turkey who's never been out of the United States. You would fly to England first, and then go to France, and then go to Italy, and then go to Greece, and then finish off with a finale in Turkey. Much more sense that way, because then flying into England, it's exciting. If you've never been out of the country before, England is exotic. Cream teas and roundabouts are thrilling. And then you'd go to France, and then you'd go to Italy, and you'd handle it better. But if you flew right into Turkey, even if you survived Turkey, by the time you got back to England, all that stuff would be anticlimactic. So you want to grow into the culture shock places, and you want to celebrate the culture shock. As I like to say, culture shock is the growing pains of a broadening perspective. It's a good thing. So there's all of those things to consider. Also, something I think is really important is not flying in and out of the same city. You waste a lot of time and money getting back to that starting point. It just seems like that's what you do. You fly in and out of here and you do that big circle. No, fly into here and fly out of there. It's just much more practical. And you fly what travel agents call open jaws. You say there's no extra fee for flying open jaws. It's just half the round trip fare here and half the round trip fare there. And I think that's efficient. So these are kind of the practicalities that I cover. If people are curious about that kind of stuff, it's fun for me just to talk about that, because that used to be all I talked about. And now I talk about this more highfalutin philosophy of why we travel and the value of travel for peace and understanding and economic justice and celebrating diversity and that kind of stuff. But I've got 4 hours of this kind of lecture for free anytime, just the practical skills. And then I've got another 5 hours of lectures on history and art for travelers. And then I've got another 4 or 5 hours on why we travel. And they're all lectures that are available. We've got sort of a university for travel at ricksteves.com. So people can go there, Laura, if they want more details on that. I've got a whole 1 hour talk on packing, for example, talking about exactly what I pack and why.
Would you please not share that with my husband, because that might imply some major changes in my...
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No comment, but no, seriously, it's important. And then maybe just one more logistical thing. And it's the issue of, that LJ talked about a cybersecurity presentation coming up. The sheer issues related to crime, related to protection, being smart. There are some basics there, but are there anything special that you have a lens on that can keep people from, any of us, from just being stupid?
I'm not very techie or concerned about that. I don't do any crazy precautions. I've got 100 people on my staff. None of us have these apps or these shields for our passports that help people not scan them or something like that. We just use common sense. I mean, thieves in Europe target Americans, not because they're mean, but because they're smart. We're the people that have the good stuff in our purses and wallets. So you're likely to get your purse snatched or your wallet picked. Don't have anything valuable in it. That's the solution there. You got a day's spending money, odds and ends, and a funny little note to the thief. I literally have a funny little note to the thief in my wallet. I travel with, where is my wallet these days? I don't even know where my wallet is because I rarely go out. But, oh, here's my wallet. And in my wallet, I've got a little note in 5 languages that says, "Dear thief, sorry, there's not much money here, but why don't you consider getting a decent job?" And you just don't want to be victimized by these petty street thieves. They're going to grab your wallet if you're not careful. So leave your valuables in the hotel or wear a money belt and this kind of thing. You're not going to get mugged or knifed in Europe. That doesn't happen in Europe. That's much more likely to happen in the United States. And then, I don't like to use my credit card unless I need to. I'd rather use cash out and about, be smart with your credit card. But I just keep it kind of low tech and choose my neighborhoods carefully. And I've never, every once in a blue moon, I'll get pickpocketed, and it's sort of an invasion, and it kind of messes me up for a few hours as I have to shut down this credit card or something. But I find Europe is, and again, Europe's my beat, but Laura, I find Europe very, very safe, except for petty purse snatching and pickpocketing. And if you're American, in that case, it's very dangerous.
Well, thanks on that front. And then where are you going next? What's the next when you can?
Oh boy. I had the greatest trip planned a year ago, and I was flying into Istanbul. I'm so excited to get back to Turkey, and we're going to make TV shows and update our guidebooks. And now it's a different world. So I'm thinking, when we're, people are always asking, when can we travel again? With, I've got 100 guides standing by in Europe that have no work to do. They're freelancers, and I've got my staff here that's chomping at the bit to get going. And we're ready to do tours again this fall, in the fall of 2021. But the way our country is reluctant to get vaccinated is going to slow us down as a whole nation. And Europe is having its bumpy road too. So I think it's going to be spring, most likely, before we're able to go. But I think it's pretty realistic to expect that we'll have organized travel by spring, like a year from now. Individuals can travel very shortly. I mean, individuals who really want to go places, there's certain places will open up ahead of other places. But as a company, I'm not going to consider Europe open until everything's open. So I'm just going to wait until that happens. What I'm going to be doing is, the big deal for me is our guidebooks. You held up one of 50 guidebooks that we've got, and those are lovingly updated. And they were right on in, a year ago when or 2 years ago when this thing broke. And now I don't know how many businesses are still going to be standing. I've got a friend who runs a museum here in the United States, and he figures a good percentage of all the museums that have closed during the pandemic will not be able to reopen. And that's a challenge in Europe too. I've got small friends who run small museums and cafes and restaurants and guest houses and tour programs and different activities and businesses. And some of them are closing down. So what I need to do, the first thing is, when Europe is back up and running, not before, but when it's up and running, I'm going to go back to Europe with my key co-authors and researchers. We're going to research one city together just to kind of see what is the impact of COVID. And we're going to have a huddle, and then we're going to establish our treatment for how do we update our books in a blitz. And then we're going to fan out over Europe, because again, I've got 50 guidebooks covering all of Europe. That's thousands and thousands of pages of data. And we're going to just sweep out all of the rubble. We're going to have to delete everything that's died because of COVID, and then have accurate information. And then we'll build it back up with what little mom and pops are going to be around from going forward. In 2020, assuming travel is wide open in 2022, I'm a big fan of using guidebooks, and I just love guidebooks. My guidebooks or other guidebooks, I don't care. They're just guidebooks are $5, $20 tools for $3,000 experiences. And they're the most important thing you can take to Europe and are in your travels. And in 2022, anybody who has a guidebook out that says 2022 on it, it's either bad information put together in 2021 when they didn't know what it's going to really be like, or it's going to be good information from 2019 that is not really adapted to what happened because of COVID. But there's going to be no up-to-date information that's reliable in 2022. It doesn't mean you don't need a guidebook. You need to use a 2019 guidebook, even if it's got 2022 on the cover, it's 2019. And you need to be flexible and realize some things will be closed. But what we're going to do, we're going to go to town. We're going to dive in there as soon as things get throttling up and back to normal in spring of 2022, God willing. And we will have all hands on deck, and we'll have our new guidebooks post-COVID out by the winter of 2022. So 2023 going forward, we'll have honest to goodness post-COVID guidebooks.
So people will definitely be looking for that. And I'm going to close this out before we get to a Q&A with the following task. 1-word to 2-word responses. This is our lightning round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Doesn't have to be the best, but it has to be a best. Doesn't have to be the most favorite, but it has to be a favorite. Best meal.
Jumping from bar to bar in Venice, eating ugly things on toothpicks, little tapas Venetian style, washing it down with local wine.
Sounds good. Best performance. Cultural.
The bizarre Bath theater comedy walk in the town of Bath, 2 hours west of England, with comedians that take people walking around telling jokes through that beautiful town.
Favorite hike or expedition?
Walking around Mont Blanc on the Tour de Mont Blanc, 100 miles, 10 days, going from mountain lodge to mountain lodge with beautiful rustic gourmet dinners waiting for you every night, a minibus to take your bags to the next lodge, and hiking through Italy, Switzerland, and France as you go around Europe's tallest mountain.
Sounds good. Best drink, best libation.
A full-bodied red wine from Tuscany. Corposo vino rosso, por favore.
Okay. And finally, favorite country of all?
The United States of America.
Oh boy. But it's great. Rick, thanks so much. Needless to say, people are going to be interested in hearing more, learning more. I happened to go to your marketplace site and found that just interesting during this interim period. So thank you for that.
Oh, you mean the guides marketplace? Yeah,
yes,
Laura,
that's marketplace. Sorry, yes.
We've got 50 or 80 guides contributing all sorts of fun virtual experiences, language lessons, cooking lessons, art lessons, got virtual walks. Most of it is free. And if you go to my website, ricksteves.com, and go to the tour section where we normally sell our tours, we're not selling tours now. We're taking names on the waiting list, and we'll let people know when we're able to do our tours. But we're connecting our travelers with our guides who just love to teach. And it's a cool corner, isn't it?
It's fascinating. I'm pulling up some questions here from our attendees here, of which we have over 200, I understand. So thoughts about balancing the need and desire to travel with so many people, which is out there, and the potential problems that tourists bring to communities. Over tourism in places like Venice and Barcelona were cited.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's an important one. And this person mentioned Barcelona. If you've been to Barcelona, you know the Ramblas, that wonderful boulevard that goes from the main square of the whole country of Catalonia down to the harbor, the Ramblas. And ever since I was a kid, I've been going to the Ramblas and loving it. It was originally beloved because it was a community there, local people grandmothers taking their little granddaughters to the bird market, pensioners going every morning to buy their produce at the Boqueria market, old timers smoking their pipe and reading the newspaper in the benches there, all the way down. And it was just a delightful stroll. And then over time, all the tourists come there. Airbnb comes along, and tourists can spend a lot of money staying in an apartment. So landlords realize they can make as much money in 3 days in Airbnb as they do renting the place to a local person for a whole month. Consequently, the rent goes up. The local people are driven to the suburbs, And what was a characteristic downtown district becomes a tourist ghetto, and it's filled with Airbnb apartments instead of people living there. And then there's no more birds in the bird market because the grannies are out in the suburbs. There's no more real people in the produce market because it's just slushies and skewered fruit for tourists. And it changes the personality of what was a very vital neighborhood community, the Ramblas. So in the new edition of my book on Barcelona, I've got the Ramblas, RIP. It's no longer the Ramblas. It's still worth knowing about and walking down, but it's a tourist promenade. That is an ethical issue. I think I'm not fighting this battle. I love the efficiency of Airbnb, but Airbnb does decimate a lot of beautiful communities. So that's just one example of the kind of negative impact that tourism can have on an area. Would these communities get rid of their tourism? No, tourism butters their bread, but it needs to be moderated, and we need to consume in a thoughtful way. And that's up to each individual traveler. Just on the eve of the pandemic, there was the beginning of a time when there were entire communities turning against tourism. It was too many tourists in Amsterdam, in Venice, in Florence, in Barcelona, and we were wondering what's going to happen. Well, now you go to Rome now, and my friends in Rome are telling me for the first time in memory, local people, families are out in their piazzas, enjoying the piazzas for what the piazzas were designed to be, not tourist markets, but places where the community goes as an extended living room to enjoy a nice warm evening with the kids and the grannies and everybody all together. That's happening again because there's no tourism on the Piazza Navona. So it's an interesting time.
Who knew? I know the French have discovered their own country during this period, which is fascinating. Another question, which I think is really relevant here, getting over the fear of not speaking the language, traveling to different countries. And by the way, this is posed, again, in our question room on just how do you get over that? I think it's a great question.
Well, it's a great question, but the answer is simple. There's no concern. I speak only English. It's nothing to brag about, but I make a point about that in my lectures and so on, because people think, they just assume, I must speak all the languages. I am hopeless with languages. I know key words. Like for me, a glass of wine is really important in Italy, and I know how to say corposo because I like it full-bodied, and I know how to say thank you, and I know how to say red and white. So I know the words, but I know no grammar. I cannot put a sentence together in any language other than English. Again, nothing to brag about, but with my English language skills, I can make TV shows, I can lead tours, I can write guidebooks, and I can go on a wonderful family vacation anywhere in Europe. If I limited to where I could speak the language, I'd only go to Britain. That would really limit my options in Europe. I've been saying this for a whole generation, and since then, it's much easier than ever to hurdle the language barrier. You need to be able to predict where you'll find people speaking English if you want to minimize the language barrier problems. Young people, well-educated people, and people in tourism, they speak English. Remember, if a Greek meets a Norwegian hiking on that trail around Mont Blanc, how are they going to communicate? They're going to communicate certainly in English. What Greek speaks Norwegian and what Norwegian speaks Greek? It just doesn't happen, but they communicate in English. So we speak the world's linguistic common denominator. And I could get off on a whole 15-minute discussion on how do you communicate in what the Voice of America calls simple English. Easy words, internationally understood words, no contractions, no slang. Enunciate every letter, assuming people are reading your lips, wishing it was written down, hoping to see every letter as it tumbles out of your mouth. I speak this way almost robotically for 3 months out of every year. When I return home, my friends say, Rick, you can relax now. We speak English fluently. But if we want to be understood in Europe, you need to remember they don't know the word picture. They know the word photo. They don't know the word vacation. They know the word holiday. I don't know why, but you just play around, you see what works. And there's a very important, my first book was Europe Through the Back Door. It's out in its 40th edition now. And there's a very important chapter in there called Hurdling the Language Barrier that talks about this. But bottom line, don't let your fears about language keep you back. And remember the little countries. You might think, I can go to Italy or I can go to France, but I can't go to Lithuania or I can't go to Bulgaria. Well, it's the little countries that speak better English than the big language groups. Because if you're Italian, you've got a big world speaking Italian. If you're Norwegian, there's only 5 million people in the world that speak your language natively. You better learn English, or you better learn another language, and it's not going to be Greek, it's going to be English. So then you have a bigger world. So the Bulgarians, the Lithuanians, the Greeks, the Norwegians, the Finns, they're the ones that are going to speak more English than the Spanish and the French and the Germans.
So perfect answer, which means there's no excuse for anybody out there. We can go anywhere we need to.
That's right. That's right.
Taking just a tour around the world, you're very Eurocentric. Obviously, you focused your business. It's big enough as a continent. But there were some questions about your in Asia, South America, Russia. Where have you looked at potentially either doing some things or just some observations that you have? And I know you do have a son in Colombia, so you can.
Yeah, my son lives in Colombia and in Medellin. He loves Latin America. And it was just surprising. He traveled there and he fell in love with the culture. And now he decided to live there. The world is his playground. And that was thanks to his travel. He was fortunate from this point of view to have a family that traveled a lot. We dragged him to Europe every year for his first 18 years. And then now he's more comfortable than I am going around the world. And he's a great tour guide. But as far as beyond Europe, you know, from a business point of view, I just focus on Europe. My passion is to inspire Americans to get out of their comfort zone and see the world as a welcoming place. And for me, you know, Europe is the wading pool for world exploration. I've done TV shows outside of Europe when I want to teach something that I think is important to caring and smart Americans who are steep on the learning curve for this or that issue. That's why we did our 1 hour special on the Holy Land. We did our 1 hour special on Iran. I did a special on Cuba. And we've just finished a show on hunger and hope, lessons learned from Ethiopia and Guatemala, which I'm very proud of. And I hope that people can take a look at that. I do want to remind people that everything we've ever produced is available for free on our website at ricksteves.com in the TV section. You can just go there and click and watch it without any ads or anything. My favorite country is India. I love traveling in Southeast Asia, and Japan's my favorite place to eat. If I wasn't doing this work, I'd be traveling in all over the globe. But if somebody gave me an all expenses paid trip to a luxury resort in Fiji, and I'd love to go to South Pacific, I've never been there, I would be frustrated, but I'd say, nope, I got to take those 10 days and I need to go back to Portugal to work on my guidebook. So I'm just really thankful that I've had this success with my books and my tours and my TV shows in Europe. And I owe it to my public, really, to take every day I can get away from home and go to Europe with my staff. I've got 100 very talented, hardworking people that have the same mission as me, which is the same mission, by the way, as the World Affairs Council. And we want to be sure that our information on Europe is the best in the game.
So questions abound from literally one quickie from a person who is Italian, speaking of traveling in his or her own country. Your favorite place in Italy to visit?
Well, my favorite place to Italy, you know, when you look at my TV shows, you can see where I like to go. I've made 120 half-hour slices of Europe, okay? Episodes, 120 of them all over Europe, trying to cover it the best I can. 2 shows on Norway, 4 shows on Ireland, 8 shows on Spain, 18 shows on Italy, 9 hours of Italy. And to make me say my favorite place in Italy, I can't do it. Our best-selling tour, we've got 40 different itineraries around Europe. The best-selling of all those itineraries is Venice, Florence, and Rome in 10 days. Those are the great cities. I love Siena. When I need to convalesce, when I'm burned out and I just want to shuffle around in slippers and sip wine, I go to Verona on Lake Como, 2 hours north of Milano. For the Mediterranean coastline, I've seen most of the Mediterranean coastline over the last 30 or 40 years. And the very, very best chunk of the Mediterranean for me is the place near Genoa, halfway near Pisa, between Florence and Genoa. On the Riviera, it's called the Cinque Terre, the five lands. And I love the Cinque Terre. And then I always say, if you like Italy as far south as Rome, go further south, it gets better. If Italy's getting on your nerves by the time you get to Rome, don't go farther south, it gets worse. It intensifies. Naples is a barrel full of cultural monkeys. My mark of a good traveler is how they enjoy Naples. If somebody goes to Naples and says, oh, body odor, stray hairs, traffic jams, people ripping you off, oh, people crowding in line, I say, well, you'd really enjoy Denmark. You know, you should go to Denmark. There's none of that in Denmark. But I love to take Italy as a package deal, and it's my favorite country. There's something just magical about Italy for me. And if you want Italy in the extreme, head on down to Sicily. I was just looking at some of our clips on Sicily. We did 2 TV shows on Sicily. It's one of our most popular guidebooks and tours. I just love Sicily. So there's a very long-winded answer to what's my favorite place in Italy.
Well, you've spent a lot of time there, and I'll balance it out with a question that I thought was very interesting. Someone had seen your is it history or story of fascism?
Yep.
And very impressed by it. Thought it was really interesting. So talk briefly about that counterbalance of travel between what is fun and then what historical, which can be tough history, which exists everywhere.
Yeah. Well, you know, Thomas Jefferson said, travel makes a person wiser, if less happy. You're exposed to things. And if you're a caring person, you want to do something about it. You know, I just don't want to go to my grave with a scrapbook of me with an apron doing barbecue with my privileged white friends. It's just not my goal in life, you know. And I want to get out there and delve into the challenges that are facing humanity. Where's the justice? Where are the challenges? What can we do better? When you think about Muhammad, for example, he said, don't tell me how educated you are, tell me how much you've traveled. Travel gets you tuned into the world, and we can learn from history. I got a history degree at the University of Washington accidentally because I had traveled. I just love history. I woke up in the dorm one morning and it occurred to me, I've got 7 history classes, 3 more, and I'm a historian. Let's push on through, you know. I just love history. And I really believe we can learn from history. It's sort of ironic. I got a history degree for my passion. And then with all the encouragement from my loved ones, I got a business degree for something practical. Looking back 40 years later, I think my history degree has been just as practical and valuable as my business degree. They kind of work well for what I've ended up doing. But I'm concerned about democracy and the threats to democracy lately. And we've got a very challenging time in our country right now. We've got threats to democracy where wannabe autocrats are doing a pretty good job of derailing democracies in countries like Poland and Hungary and Turkey right now. And back in the 1930s, most of Europe had lost its democracy to fascists. And, you know, you had fascism in Germany and Italy and Spain and Portugal. And all of these dictators were reading out, it was as if they were reading out of the same playbook. I don't care if they're far left or far right. Wannabe autocrats read out of this amazing playbook. It worked in the 30s and it works in our age right now. So what I wanted to do was take my platform as a travel teacher with a public television show and take a look at what Europe learned from their fascist experience back in the 1930s and let it air now so we could be thinking about how is the threat to our democracy related to that. Our democracy is pretty fragile and we've got to be careful to guard it. And this show, it's kind of tough to make a 1-hour show on fascism be compelling and a hit, but it was a surprise hit on public television. And it's been airing all over the country many times. And again, if people are interested in that, they can watch it right away by just going to our website. But I was just fascinated. And from a traveling point of view, there's so many interesting sites you can see relating to Europe's fascism and what a tragic consequence was from their fascism.
Just trying to make sure I'm fair to the group here because we have a lot of wonderful questions. I do like this one though. Where was the last place in Europe that you felt out of your comfort zone and why? And perhaps how'd you handle it?
Yeah, let me think. The last place I felt out of my comfort zone. The most out of my comfort zone I've felt is after dark in Moscow and and Leningrad or St. Petersburg, you know. In Russia, there's a lot of lawlessness on the streets, and you have to be really careful about where you choose to go. And there's, you know, in Europe, it's pretty safe. I felt very uneasy in Guatemala, in Guatemala City. And I used to love going to Nicaragua and El Salvador, but now the big cities of Central America have a problem just related to gangs that makes you uncomfortable. So those are places where I've been out of my comfort zone, sadly.
A message for staying fit on the road.
Staying fit on the road. Well, the most important thing for me is to get my sleep. I got to get my beauty rest. I do nothing violates my 7 hours of sleep a night. I don't take any pharmaceuticals except Ambien. I hate to be a spokesperson for a pharmaceutical drug. But if you are interested in getting your sleep and you're on the road, a little bit of whatever kind of sleeping medicine you want, I think is a great idea. I use Ambien. It's so strong that I never take a full tablet, but I cut it into little tiny chunks. And if I need 3 hours of sleep on the flight going over to Europe, I use that. When I get to Europe, with jet lag, I always end up waking up at 3 a.m. And any of our listeners, our viewers probably do also. And I don't want to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I need to get, a few hours sleep on that first night in Europe so I can get into European time. So I take a little bit of help that way in the middle of the night on jet lag. And then if I'm ever coming down with some kind of cold because I'm working too hard over there, I just need to get a good night's sleep. And that's really important, is a good night's sleep. Also, I eat healthy and I exercise. It's pretty simple. Sleep, eat healthy, and exercise. That's all I need. And I can be in Europe working like mad for 60 days at a time. I normally go, Laura, on 2 trips. I routinely spend 100 days a year in Europe. I'm there in April and May in the Mediterranean. Then I go home for June and I go back for the summer for north of the Alps. It just makes sense. You want to avoid the heat and the crowds of the summer in the Mediterranean. It's so hot these days. You just can't be out and about. Well, maybe you guys can because you live in South Carolina. You're used to that kind of heat. But I don't do well. I'm from Seattle. I would rather have gray drizzle than that kind of heat you get in southern Spain in the summer. If you looked at my TV shows, I can't remember when I was anywhere, but I could derive where every show is shot because we've had about 150 shows over the years. If it's in the Mediterranean, it was shot in April or May. If it's in the Alps or north of the Alps, it was shot in July or August. In Scandinavia, in Britain, and Ireland, I want peak season. I want July and August. I want long days. I want good weather. I want people. I want crowds, frankly. Crowds are a good thing to a certain degree because they vitalize a museum, an open air folk museum. There's dancing, there's people out and about, there's special activities when there are tourists there. If you go to the open air folk museum in Oslo or Copenhagen or Stockholm or Helsinki in the off season, in May or October, it's open, but you're just kicking through leaves and all alone there. And it's like walking through a ghost town. If you go to that same place in July or August, it's a cultural festival for the same admission. So I find that the Mediterranean area stays vibrant most of the year, but in the north, you want summertime.
Well, on that note, as we move into summer and the potential for perhaps some travel, I'm going to pass the baton, I guess, directly to Wade. Is that correct, LJ?
Yes, please go ahead. And for everyone, please stay after Wayne closes up. Stay for Where is Rick? Exclusive.
Oh, all right. And I want to thank everybody for those questions. Those were great questions. And Laura, nice job on moderating the discussion, as it brought me back to kind of memories when I was there with you a few years ago. It's just great to be together. And I'm so enthusiastic about the World Affairs Council. I'm really in outgoing experience. I'm helping people get out there and see the world. And if I understand it correctly, you're helping the world come to us. And it's the same value. You can connect here or you can connect there, but we need to connect. And that was that little clip we aired from Why We Travel in the beginning, is the value of connecting. So World Affairs Council is all about connecting. My philosophy on travel, all about connecting. It's a beautiful thing, and it's more important now than ever.
Well, you'll come back and passing the baton to our chair, Wayne Cooper.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you, Rick, for those nice comments about the World Affairs. You always do just an outstanding presentation. But I was thinking, when you were here in person with us a few years ago, I still remember we received more comments on your presentation than any speaker I can remember.
Oh.
And you mentioned it, and I think it's really that travel builds relationships, and that's what the World Affairs Council is all about, is building relationships.
Yeah.
So we thank you so very much.
Well, in that regard, Wayne, I know that people are welcome to donate and make the Charlotte World Affairs Council strong. Don't think of it as a charity. This is a service. We need to have these connections. This is an investment in peace and stability. It's an investment in our economy. It's just really practical to have these connections. And that's why I'm committed to keeping people traveling. And I jumped at an opportunity to join you today.
Gosh, you need to be chairman here. You say it much better than I, but you're exactly right. So we do hope that those, because we have such a large audience today, that everybody out there will join. And with that, I thank you again. And that looks like a mean drink you've got there also.
Hey, I'm not going to tell you what's in this, but it's caffeine and I love it early in the morning in Seattle.
And I'll turn it back over to LJ, and we will move to the chat room, I think.
And Rick, I'll keep my thank yous when we finish our next segment of the program. But let me thank everyone here who was with us today. We will try to have Rick come in person again to Charlotte. I hope you travel safely, but you travel with Rick Steves and his group. We have all the resources that were mentioned during this program in our chat group, and we will also have it on our website. And let me just remind you that every one of you got a confirmation for this program, and in that confirmation there's a video, and it's the video that Rick was talking about, the half-hour video about why we travel. So you actually have it. You can find it on Rick's website as well, but you have it in your confirmation for today's program, and I encourage everyone to please watch that video. It is great. And now for the exclusive, the first time at the World Affairs Council of Charlotte, where is Rick? Let's play a game together. And Rick, you lead it, please, if you don't mind.
Okay. These are the teases of the show.
Hi, I'm Rick Steves, back with more of the best of Europe. This time, we're soaking in the cultural wonders of
So where are we here? You got 3 seconds.
Hungary, in Budapest. Your move.
Hi, I'm Rick Steves, back with more of the best of Europe. This time we're tasting, pedaling, and cruising our way through Scandinavia's most fun-loving capital. Scandinavia's most fun-loving capital, Oslo, Stockholm, Copenhagen, or Copenhagen. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rick Steves. For many travelers, the quintessence of Spain is found here.
That's a famous view.
Andalusia. The sounds, sights, and experiences of southern Spain are shaped by waves of history. Join us as we enjoy the food, music, dance, and art of perhaps Europe's most passionate corner, Andalusia.
And that in particular was Granada.
Merhaba, I'm Rick Steves, back with more travels. This time, we're living the good life. Backgammon, a nice glass of Rocky, and the sparkling Mediterranean. It's the best.
Rocky. Nearby in Greece, that would be called Ouzo.
Of Western Turkey. Thanks for joining us. Hi, I'm Rick Steves, back with more of the best of Europe. This time, I'm surrounded by Slavic culture. It's
Boy, that could be in a number of places in the Balkans.
Bulgaria. Thanks for joining us.